What are your plans for your business this year? Hey, it's Tug. Do you want to expand and grow? Aren't you exhausted by going to lenders, building a relationship, and a week later, you got a new person to deal with? You have to start all over again? You don't have that with First Liberty Building and Loan. The Frost family has been helping businesses grow since the 90s, and they want to know you. Unlike big banks, they want to partner with you. The Frost family knows the patterns. They know the ebbs and flows. They know business. Get to know them at firstlibertyga.com. Building a building, buying a franchise, expanding. Reach out to them. Spend 10 minutes with them. See if you're a fit for them and if they're a fit for you. You do that at firstlibertyga.com. And by the way, if you're a young banker and want to work with a team that is faith-friendly and has a culture of excellence, First Liberty might be a good match. Reach out to them today. First Liberty Building and Loan. firstlibertyga.com. That's firstlibertyga.com.
Extra 106.3 and a Second Chance Bail Bonds are here to back your blue. Back Your Blue highlights special initiatives, criminal justice programs, and community events aimed at keeping our communities safer. Join a Second Chance Bail Bond CEO Daniel Matalon and host Tug Cowart to learn some good news about and from the law enforcement and justice communities. Now it's time to Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra 106.3 app.
Welcome to the inaugural episode of Back Your Blue with Second Chance Bail Bonds. We got Daniel with us. Daniel, Matalon, tell me about your position and what you do.
So I'm CEO of a Second Chance Bail Bonds. Founded the company in March of 2007, and now we've grown to, I guess, 9 counties in Georgia, and recently opened in the state of Alabama in the last month, and so I pretty much stay in the background with the relationships and community building and things of that nature, and the development expansion of the business throughout the state.
So what was it that made you go, you know what, we need to highlight the things that are happening in our community, maybe that doesn't get enough attention, or things that we feel good about, or we feel deserves that spotlight?
Yeah, well, so for us, it all starts with the core values of the company, right? And I'm a big believer in if you're doing business in a county, you should be aligning yourselves with the community initiatives that exist in those counties. So Cobb County, of course, where we started, that's where this whole thing started, and that's where I live. It was, very easy for us to get behind the sheriff's department first, number one, and kind of, see what things they were doing in the community and try to put all of our force behind what they had going on as well. So it made it part of who we are.
And that's where we bring in Sgt Jeremy Blake. He's the PIO, Public Information Officer at Cobb County Sheriff.
Well, good morning. Well, to keep it short, I've always been somebody who enjoys technology, been kind of a nerd, if you will, right? I've always loved things with remote controls, got into drones when they became big, when the FAA first offered a actual license.
The 107 license.
The Part 107. I went ahead and got that, and then Sheriff Owens came into office. He's big on technology, big on moving forward. They wanted to start a drone program, and they found out I had that license, so I was already a step ahead, and it was moving on with the knowledge, so let's do this.
So tell me what you do with some of those drones.
Probably our biggest use is, search and rescue type things. You have a missing kid, a missing elderly adult, something like that. We have drones that have night vision. They have thermal. We can put them up in the middle of the night, find people walking around, help lead people on the ground to them. And then that's our main priority. And actually here coming up for the Braves playoff games, we have a drone that stays attached to a rope, flies straight up and down. That's all it does, just straight up and down. And we use that every year at the playoff games. We overwatch the battery, and we have a live feed that goes straight into the Cobb Police Real-Time Crime Center, Cobb Emergency Management, Cobb Fire Marshals. They all monitor the live feed from our drone to determine crowd size, if the area needs to be shut down, if we need more officers. So we're used for a lot of overwatch of events.
Well, what do you mean it's got a rope tied to it? I mean, help me understand that, because Daniel, I don't know about you, but that makes no sense to me. We fly a drone with a rope tied to it.
Yeah, I haven't seen the rope one.
It's an interesting concept. We actually have two. We have one, to even be more confusing, is mounted on top of a Ford Explorer. But basically, if you would imagine having a carry-on suitcase and you lay this thing down on the ground and you take off the top part, there's a drone sitting there. You hit a button and the drone takes straight up. It only goes straight up. It doesn't fly around left or right. It can only fly straight up and straight down. And so it's just like putting a camera high up in the sky. So instead of having to mount a camera to the top of a building or have some kind of infrastructure to raise a camera up, now our camera flies. And that's it.
Well, man, I gotta tell you, I'm fascinated by it, Daniel. All of it.
Yeah, no, they're a very impressive sheriff's department. And they do a great job, which makes it easy for us to get behind anything. Anytime they have anything going on in the community, we're there to support. 100%.
How long y'all been working with them?
Since March of 2007. When we first came in, we started to kind of align. But I would say since Sheriff Owens has become sheriff, we've become extremely more involved with the sheriff's department and supporting their initiatives and community outreach.
Like, what are some of the things that y'all have been involved with?
So there's an array of different things, but Thanksgiving is coming up. That's a big one. So a lot of the turkeys and the fixings and things like that for people that are in need. We do also shop with the sheriff program, Christmas time with the kids. So we donate to all of these causes that they do.
All right. So, and you're, I would assume, heavily involved in that stuff, too.
Oh, yes. My day job as the public information officer, it's my job to promote our agency, be at these events, be at backpack giveaways and everything else that we're doing together to help benefit our community. So, yeah, we're right there on the front lines promoting these events on the front end and then documenting it as it happens and then sharing it with everybody to see our efforts.
So tell me about the SWAT team, because you're also a member of the SWAT team focused on robotics applications. That sounds like something they do down at Georgia Tech. And
yes.
You can see I'm wearing Georgia Bulldogs today. So I'm not as smart as those folks.
So, yes, I am also a member of the SWAT team. I've been doing that for a little over 5 years now. My main job on the SWAT team, we have a couple of robots. One's pretty big. It weighs about 60 pounds, has a big arm on it. You can grab a doorknob and turn it like a wrist, like a human, open a door. I can open car doors with it. It's has different cameras, different attachments, opening packages, stuff like that for like a bomb inspection. So I use that robot, and then we have a much smaller one, very easy to drive. Really, anybody can drive that one. We use that more for, say, clearing a house. Maybe you want to send in the robot first, see if somebody's in there, because, sometimes if we can put a piece of electronics between us and a bad guy, we might be able to defuse that situation before we're forced to go in there. So that's what we use these for.
That seems like a good thing. I'm all in favor of that, using technology for the good of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, safer option too.
Yes,
keeps people safe.
When it comes to robotics and how do you get involved with being able to, I don't know, run a robot? It sounds like Short Circuit. It sounds like an '80s movie a little bit.
It was one of those things where I joined the SWAT team, and about 2 years into being on the SWAT team, they approached the team and said, hey, we need somebody to really learn this. We have this technology. We need to use it. We need to utilize it. And again, that's kind of like my thing. I've always enjoyed remote control toys and cars and playing with things. So I naturally jumped on it, had a couple training classes, started doing my own training on my own, like a weekly familiarization. And then next thing you know, I'm the guy.
Daniel, any interest in maybe getting over there and helping with the robotics applications? I know you guys work with Cobb County for a long time, since 2007, you said. Maybe we'll get you to do some of that stuff.
Yeah, and if you can always check it out at the events. They normally bring all of this stuff out. So at the neighborhood safety, or at the Cobb County Safety Village, they'll display them, and you can kind of come out and actually see them all in action, and they show you how all that works. And there's definitely been desire for the Safety Commission, Cobb County Safety Commission, to actually start helping some of these kids pick a path, career path, and things like that. And drones is obviously a big topic in the schools right now. So I think there's a future opportunity there.
Tell me about the safety event.
So the Cobb County Safety Village, which is where they do a lot of events, the backpack drives and things like that, and some of their recruiting events that they do for the sheriff's department for employment. They display all of these things. So SWAT will have a static setup where you can see some of the stuff, and then as well as the drones, they have the drones flying in the air, so you can take a look at it and kind of see it in action, and they kind of explain what each one is and what the purpose is and things like that. So very educational, which is great.
Been lucky enough to fly one of those things?
I have not flown one, but
Okay.
I've seen them in action. I have not flown one.
Do you plan to anytime soon?
I would like to, yeah, certainly, but they're
Sergeant Blake,
expensive.
Can we figure this out? Maybe we should start with just a regular retail version.
I mean, we do have a couple of those, so we can definitely put a little take a drone with some training wheels on it and put you up there with it.
They're expensive. They are expensive.
Yeah. So, but I mean, do you have interest in any of this stuff? Because it's all fascinating.
Well, look, I think it's a great tool to have, especially nowadays, with the climate and temperature, with law enforcement and stuff like that. This is definitely a huge tool for them. And I think it's great just for even the kids in school and stuff like that. In some of my experience on the board that I sit on, hearing the conversations about the interests of these kids and just having, and it kind of goes with the anti-bullying deal in schools and things like that. It's a great conversation piece, and it helps. It's great for the community.
Well, and anytime if kids can be involved and speaking with police officers, they automatically learn that what they hear on TV or see on the internet is not always true.
That's why it's so important that we're out in the community.
Yeah, I think so too. And you guys try to do that. Try to do it all the time. You do it with regularity is what I'm looking for.
Yes, all the time. Our community engagement unit is active would be not doing them justice. Every day, there are 2 to 3 events every day. Maybe they have Sundays off, maybe, but they are everywhere, and it's all over Cobb. It's not just east or west or north or south. They're all over Cobb County. They're at food pantries. They're at all of these touch truck events he's talking about. They're going to all of these little organizations and then the huge ones. Like there's no... We don't pick and choose. We go to everything. So it doesn't matter if it's going to be a church event on a Sunday and it's going to have 10 to 15 kids, or if it's going to be the annual Cobb Safety Village event at KSU or at the Kennesaw Mall that's going to have hundreds of people. It doesn't matter. We're going to be there.
Yeah, buckling in, teaching people how to put in their baby car seats.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds like such a step down from robotics and drones, but just as equally important.
And it's funny you bring up the car seats. We actually had, back right after Sheriff Owens took office, he was actually very big on that, and he sent a couple of people to get a car seat certified, right? It's a whole certification. It's a week-long class. And one of them, it was, at the time, she was an Investigator Duncan. She worked in internal affairs. Well, the internal affairs lieutenant's on his way to work, sees a woman commit a traffic violation, ends up doing a traffic stop on her, finds that she has 2 kids in the back seat that don't have car seats. Talking to her, he learns she can't afford them. He brings her right down the street, and we're talking 2 blocks away from headquarters, brings her right down the street, calls Investigator Duncan. She comes down. We had car seats that were donated to us. She comes down, puts brand new car seats in this lady's car, teaches her how to install them, everything else, shows her how to put them in there properly, put the kids in there safely. And instead of writing a lady a ticket, we provided her with brand new car seats to secure kids.
That's the beauty of it right there, Daniel. That's the reason that y'all do what you do, and the reason that we're talking about it on this show. Back Your Blue is what you're listening to on Extra 106.3, along with Daniel Matalon and a Second Chance Bail Bonds, as well as Sgt Jeremy Blake. He's the PIO for the Cobb County Sheriff's Office. We'll continue with this conversation next on Extra 106.3, Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station.
This is Back Your Blue, presented by a Second Chance Bail Bonds, live on Extra 106.3 FM and streaming for free anytime on the Extra 106.3 app.
Welcome back to Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3. My name is Tug Cowart, along with Daniel from a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a great defense attorney here in town, Lawrence Zimmerman. You can find him at atlantanotguilty.com. Been working for over 25 years here in the city of Atlanta, both on the state and federal courts. But you had an interesting story that you were telling us during the break where somebody tried to scam you. Like, of all the people that you can try to scam, a lawyer doesn't seem to be the easiest target, but they went after you nonetheless.
Well, scams are getting pretty complex these days. Sometimes it's hard to tell, especially if it's from a bank. But yesterday, sitting home watching the Dolphins lose to the Bills, but during the game, I got a phone call on my cell phone, and the guy said, Mr. Zimmerman. I said, yes. This is Deputy so-and-so from Cobb County Sheriff's Department, and you missed court 2 months ago for jury duty, and Judge Kimberly A. Childs has issued an arrest warrant for you. I was like, wow. And I started playing him, right? I was like, he goes, it goes Class C citation. There's no such thing in Georgia as Class C citation. So, I mean, even though I already knew it was a scam, just that alone, right? So I started playing, like, oh my God, really? Are you kidding me? I missed court, missed jury duty. This is insane. Am I in trouble? And he's like, yes, but if you just bring a money down to the sheriff's department at 185 Roswell Street, we'll reimburse you. You'll be okay. Do you have a vehicle? I said, yeah. Actually, I called my daughter over, my 14-year-old. I told her to get out her video recorder so I could record the call. So anyway, he kept going on and on. I said, "Who's the sheriff of Cobb County, by the way?" He kept he's like, "Do you have the money?" I go, "Who's the sheriff?" He couldn't answer that question, right? So, well, can I pay you instead so I don't have to drive over to the sheriff's department? He's like, "Yes. How much do you want to pay?" I said, "How about $25? I'll Venmo you." He said, "Let me ask somebody." He comes back like 10 seconds later. He goes, "How about $3,500?" And now I can't. I know this is probably a
relatively family friendly.
Yeah,
show.
we got the FCC, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
get worried. I don't want you to get fined. But
Yeah.
I may have used a few curse words and told them, "Listen, I'm a lawyer. I know the judge pretty well, and take a hike."
Take a hike. Yeah.
So
So how do you combat stuff like that? Are you able to track down phone calls, or is it gone through 50 routers and there's no way to track it
actually,
down?
interesting thing because I actually called him back and he answered the phone again.
No way!
Yeah. So
The idiot answers the
Yeah.
phone after he just tried to scam you.
yeah, I sent the number to the judge just so they had it so they could alert the clerk's office.
Did it turn out to be just a regular cell phone, or was it a company that just? I mean,
Right, I think it's regular cell phone. What I truly think is probably somebody somewhere in prison. I had a client last year who was doing scams with a cell phone from prison, and he got indicted by the feds.
I didn't know you could have a cell phone in prison.
Well, you can't.
Okay,
But they do.
but they do. How do you get cell phones in prisons? Because I see
great
that I see it on the news at night.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of there's a lot of news in Georgia, Department of Corrections. I'm not saying everybody's a bad apple, but
Sure.
a lot of the guards and there's just an article in the AJC last week about this. A lot of the guards bring in phones in exchange for money, and inmates have phones, and it's a major security risk. I've seen people. I saw a old client of mine on Instagram doing Instagram from prison.
Wow.
Yeah,
How
videotape.
about that? I just can't wrap my head around this, Daniel. Some of this stuff is just blows my hair back.
Yeah.
I really have a hard time, and I think most people do, because most people think, okay, everybody's honest, everybody's on the up and up, everybody's trying to do the right thing, and that just doesn't always seem to be the case.
No, yeah, I mean, the scams, we've been scammed multiple times.
How's that?
Basically what these people are doing is they're going on to the jail dockets and they see that someone's been arrested, they're in custody, and then they get the phone numbers, they are Googling the numbers or however they're obtaining the numbers, I have no idea. But then they're reaching out to the families and they're saying, "Oh yeah, well, hi, I'm Daniel Matalon, a second chance bail bonds. Johnny's in
That's
jail."
my mom's friends. Yeah, my mom's friend that happened to.
Yeah, and so then what they're doing is they're getting these people to Cash App them money, and it's all a complete scam, and they'll do it in the middle of the night, so people are disoriented, they don't know what's going on, and they freak out because it's their loved one who's in custody, and I mean it's a challenge that we've had probably over the last 5 to 7 years, and it's happened multiple times, and this has happened in multiple states as well, which we've then brought law enforcement into the equation. We've done reporting on it. Channel 2, WSB TV, Michael Seiden's done a special report on it, and other news stations as well, because it's a prevalent thing, and it's like, look, just one more thing for people to scam people on. It's just another.
It's never ending.
It never ends.
I have to walk my mama through it a little bit every now and then. Like she'll say, "Hey, there's a prince in Egypt that's going to send me $1 million. Did you?" I was like, "Mama, that's not real. That's not, let's hold on." And I say that in jest. It's not as silly as that one, because that one's been around for 100 years, as long as social media's been around. But there are those that she'll get an email and it'll say, "Hey, your check bounced," and she doesn't bank with Bank of America, but she clicks the link anyway. And I'm like, "No."
Right.
And I try to, but that's the thing.
Well, the elderly are huge targets. I mean,
always.
I know in Cobb they do have an elderly abuse task force at the DA's office that and we work with them through the Neighborhood Safety Commission on helping get some of this awareness out in the community.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's wild the stuff that they do to the elderly people. It's
I sort of fell for it a few months back. I had just done a press conference. I was helping all the businesses in the city of Roswell fight them shutting down Canton
I
Street.
recall that. I live in Alpharetta, right down the
Right.
road.
So I did a whole thing with them, and afterwards I got an email for said CBS, and I clicked on it, and whatever I put in there, and then I forwarded it to my buddy. And then I realized, this is a phishing
This
scam,
is
and I
not
immediately changed all my passwords on my Gmail.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
the first thing you need to do. And I think a lot of people are just like, oh, either they don't think about it, but that's something that you have to do. You have to protect yourself. And I know changing emails are such a pain in the butt, because there's only one that anybody can remember, and it's usually your name and your birth date or something. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that becomes a struggle, and but that is an absolute first step. And good job with the Roswell thing, man. Let's talk about how defense attorneys and law enforcement officers work together, especially in the realm of bail bonding and everything else for that matter. It always seems like that there would be a rub there, but it doesn't always mean there is.
No, so I'll say this. Criminal defense lawyers and the sheriff's department typically get along pretty well because the sheriffs are typically the jail, they see us, and they're in the courtroom. They're like Cobb County Sheriff's Department's not out there making arrests generally, right? Mm-hmm. Cherokee County Sheriff's Office is responsible for a lot of the investigations. So, like Cobb, mostly get along with everybody. Heck, I've tried cases in Cobb where I'm asking the deputies, what do you think of the witness, or they'll laugh at the police officer testifying. Yeah. But, obviously there's natural tension. But I'll say this. There's nothing worse than a young criminal defense lawyer and a young cop because they butt heads. As you get some experience, you get a little bit older, you figure out how to deal with them. Listen, my job is obviously to fight for my client. And if a cop is done something that I think is inappropriate or he's making a mistake and he has the wrong person, I'm going to point it out. He may not agree, but the jury may. So you got to do it respectfully. And it just depends on the situation. If a police officer being,
overzealous.
Yeah, or not very credible on the stand, then you could attack him. It just depends just depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Try to be respectful. It just depends on the police officer. I became friends with a detective in DeKalb County years ago because he watched me grill another cop in the hearing before him, and he came up to me afterwards and said, "That's fantastic." And we became fast friends, and we talk to this day and go to dinner.
Okay, all right. And how do you see it, Daniel, from at least your point of view?
In some scenarios, we're getting reached out to by the defense lawyer prior to, right? So they're negotiating a bond, let's just say, for their client, but we're also talking with law enforcement because there's all the mechanics that go into the surrender, and we do a really great job of that. So we speed up the process for people most of the time. So I'm kind of working on both sides of it. I'm just wedged into the middle, I guess you could say. And yes, there can be tension points, with all this stuff. But what I've learned, I guess, over the years is working together has garnered better results for everybody, for the most part. But yeah, so we do touch all sides of it. It just depends on the case. Not all the time. Sometimes they're already in custody, and then the defense lawyer calls us, and they're like, "My client needs to get out," and we get in contact with the family, at that point. But sometimes there's prearranged people that turn themselves into custody and things like that. So it just depends.
Yeah, Tug, like for example, people will hire me before they're arrested to try to avoid arrest. They'll call, saying the FBI or, Cobb County Police or Fulton County Police have reached out to me for whatever reason. I need your help. And we'll try to convince the police officer, we'll investigate and see if we can present evidence that they didn't commit the crime. Anyway, but I always say to them, but if you want to charge him or her, just notify me and we'll surrender them. So my point here is we do work in that capacity. If you're a trustworthy criminal defense lawyer, they're going to take you at your word that your client's going to surrender themselves. If they don't trust you, they're going to say, they're going to just kick down the door and arrest them.
Exactly.
Right.
And then still call you.
And that's a benefit to the client because most clients don't want to their door be kicked in at 6 a.m., in front of their family, the neighborhood. They'd rather just be able to quietly go over to the jail. Yeah. And then I'll call a second chance, say, hey, I got a client going over to the jail, check on the bond, see if a bond has been set, and hopefully you guys can bond them out quickly.
What is it that everybody has to do to make it all work smoothly?
Listen, for me, it's really nothing. I don't do anything. obviously advise clients to surrender themselves, and there's been times if it's a client that's really needy or high profile, I'll go with them to surrender. But then, if they have a bond, the bonding company takes care of the rest of it along with the jail. But I will say that a second chance bail bonds, to me, and I've helped a lot of different companies over the years and seen a lot of different bonding companies, to me, they are the cream of the crop because they actually care. All right. They're prepared. It makes a difference. They're well dressed. They're not wearing jeans and ripped T-shirts to court when they have issues. They're professionals, and they want to help any way they can. And they're out in the community doing good stuff. And you don't see that from a lot of bonding companies. And listen, there's always a bad apple in every bunch. There's bad lawyers, right?
Yeah,
so bonding companies get bad names, but that's not necessarily Daniel provides a service because the state of Georgia sets bonds for people who are accused of crimes, and they're the insurance.
Yeah, that's now I would pose the same thing to you. So flip it around. How does everybody working together make it smooth for you?
Well, for me, it's about relationships, right? So, I mean, especially with the defense lawyers and stuff like that, it's having that trust in them, and we're all about being seamless with the process, as seamless as we can be. So having those relationships and knowing each other kind of helps. Like, look, we always try to stay in our lane. We're not lawyers. We don't try to be lawyers. That's not what we're here to do. But we can help bridge the gap for the client, because sometimes they may have forgotten something, or whatever the case is. We're just a good middle ground for these people, and we stick with them for the duration of the case, because the money, when you post bail, it's for the duration of the case until there's a final disposition, and whatever that disposition is.
Yeah. What about the community? How does the community benefit overall with just a smooth process from defense to bail bonding, law enforcement officers, the whole process? How does that help just everybody in the community?
Well, because we have a financial obligation in the case, as far as the community goes, I mean, we're guaranteeing people's appearance in court, right? That's our role here, right? Is to guarantee their appearance in court, and allowing that process to continue. If you had people that all had cases and never showed up or didn't know what to do or didn't know where to go, obviously then the system doesn't continue going, right? So it just log jams basically. So, I mean, I think that's probably our biggest help, and it is, maintaining the relationship with the client and making sure that these people are aware of court dates or anything that's changed, or, whatever the case is. We're open 24/7. So we literally encourage people to call us, even if it's a question that you think is a stupid question. There's no stupid question, right? I mean, it's a crazy thing. Some people have never been through it. Some people have been through it 100 times. You don't ever know.
Do you ever get used to it? The guys that have been through it 100 times, you ever see them just like, oh, I got this.
Oh,
they're answering questions for you.
I've had clients that know the paperwork better than I do. So,
What about in your business, Lauren? Just guys they come in, they're like, all right, here's the deal. Here's what happened. They can walk you through the whole process.
Most of my clients, I would say, are typically people who've never really been in trouble.
Okay.
So they don't know. Someone called me yesterday freaking out that there's an arrest warrant from the county. They had no idea how it worked.
I could see where that'd be upsetting.
So, I do remember a story. I interned at the Miami-Dade Public Defender's Office in law school. I'll never forget. This is like the first time I ever saw this. The public defender that I was working under got some deal for some guy. He'd already been in prison a bunch of times, and the deal was like 8 years in prison. And the guy was like, 8 years in prison? I did it standing on my head. And I was like, wow.
That's not probably something you should say.
I remember going,
can we strike that from the record?
I remember thinking, like, 8 years in prison, do that standing on my head. I just remember that will always stand out to me.
Yeah, I'm guessing so.
I mean, it just depends. I mean, listen, nobody wants to go to jail, but yeah, some people have gone to jail a lot, or obviously they know how it works, and they know they'll get in and they'll deal with it and get out and, go on.
Yeah. Right now, especially with crime being a huge issue throughout the country, I mean, it seems like every city has it. Big city, small city, they're really struggling. Do you think that is something that is going to change anytime soon? How do you see this all playing out? Because I think a lot of people are hoping that's the case, that here, down the road, things get a little better.
Well, I mean, just because I'm a criminal defense lawyer doesn't mean I want crime, right?
Well, of course not. But
I'd be happy if there's no crime at all, and I guess I'd go do wills, and they could do a Netflix series about wills.
It would be very interesting, I'm sure.
But I mean, listen, I think in the last year, I mean, according to Mayor Dickens, I mean, the crime rate in Atlanta has gone down actually. So they're doing what they can. So, I can't speak for other cities. Certainly it spiked right after COVID, but I think we've seen somewhat of a decrease in the homicide rate in Atlanta for sure.
Yeah, man. I know I try not to get down there as much as I can. I try to stay away. It's just not something that when I get down there, and this is as a kid that grew up loving Atlanta, loving it. And now I just try to avoid it altogether, man. I stay in Alpharetta or stay in Roswell over where, you were just talking about, because it feels safer there, and it just unfortunately doesn't feel that way down in Atlanta. And what about you? What about Second Chance? What's your take on? Do you expect anything to get better anytime soon? Because
our business and numbers have pretty much maintained the same. I do agree with what Lawrence was saying about the murder rate. I think that he's definitely right on that. It's come down, but Look, I mean, things are happening. Summertime's always crazy. It's warm. I don't know what it is about warm weather, but when it gets hot outside, all hell breaks loose.
People outside drinking.
Yeah, well, that's
and you get a lot of
absolutely.
domestic violence and things like and then the holidays come and you have everybody at the Thanksgiving table and everybody's having drinks and then the Royal Rumble happens at the Thanksgiving table.
By the way, the holiday times are the worst for a lawyer because they want to spend all their money on Christmas gifts not to pay a lawyer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right.
I don't get much calls during Christmas.
Payment plans.
Right. That's funny. Yeah. So we'll get to colorful stories in a little bit because I bet you both have some pretty incredible stories of people that you've worked with, whether bonding or in defense of. But before we do that, monitoring. You guys have a monitoring system, too. Second chance monitoring.
A second chance monitoring. And yes, that is the ankle bracelet, as well as other alternatives to incarceration, which was something that we diversified into several years back after, at the request of different commissioners, county commissioners in the metro that were kind of challenging us. It was an industry that was smaller, and there was kind of a lack of high-level service that they were accustomed to getting with us at a second chance bail bond. So they were, so I spent quite a bit of time putting the business plan together and kind of figuring out really if it's something that I really wanted to do, that I could be helpful in that industry. And that's taken off, and we're doing a lot of great work. And it's like, well, why would you're a bail bondsman, why would you want alternatives to incarceration? Like, that doesn't make sense. You would want everybody to be, and and that's what makes us different. Like, I do agree there could be some reform in all this stuff, right? And everything should be tweaked every so often, that it's not just a one size fits all. And so I think that's what's made us different in this conversation, and we've been trying to change that narrative and be as helpful as we can in the community. So,
I mean, it's my understanding you guys even bail people out for free that don't have money.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the indigent defense, indigent defendants that have had needs, we've stepped up anytime the call is made to us, just because I believe in that. I think that it's important to for everybody to have an equal opportunity. So we when we can help and it makes sense, we absolutely step up.
Lawrence, have any of your clients been able to benefit from stuff like that? I mean, is that something that you see as a good thing?
Well, I mean, listen, anytime I have a client that needs a bond, obviously I send it to a second chance. I trust them more than anybody. In fact, someone called me yesterday and said they had a different bondsman. I said, well, I would recommend a second chance, but I haven't ever asked them to bond somebody out for free.
Well, no, I didn't mean that. I was talking about the monitoring part.
Oh, yeah, monitoring? Unfortunately, yes. Yeah, yeah.
Why unfortunately?
Well, because, listen, ankle monitoring, you're putting a monitor on. Because some judges that are reluctant to set bond for somebody, and they may feel better if there's a GPS monitor on them. And it's intrusive.
Yeah, definitely.
You got it on your leg. I think now they have wrist monitors, which are a little bit better. It looks like an Apple Watch. And just they got to charge their leg for 2 hours, or it goes off here and there and just creates problems. I will say, 4 years ago, I had a client that was accused of stalking the victim in a case. And so he was on an ankle monitor. This is up in the Georgia mountains. So I had my investigator pull the GPS records from the monitoring company. Well, guess where the client was the exact time she said that he was following her? My office in Marietta.
Oh, wow. So
it worked. It worked in that
case,
your favor.
Sure,
absolutely.
So occasionally
it works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what was it that you had to invest? Like, did you come up with technology, or did you just invest in the actual technology already exists?
Right. Yeah. No. The technology's existed, right? So an actual one-piece GPS ankle bracelet has been around, I don't know, since the early '90s, maybe even probably before that. Well, actually, it used to be like a bag, like the old cell phone bags.
Wow. I did not know that.
Back in the early '90s, that's what it was, which is
okay.
Now, yeah, and so that's how that started, I guess, and now it's evolved, and there's a lot of other things. There's educational content that's also that we're doing. There's alcohol monitors, which test the levels of alcohol and things like that. So there's, it's an array, and we're more of like a small boutique, which we have a lot of options and alternatives, which is what I think is necessary, especially in these different courts throughout Metro Atlanta. Some counties prefer one thing, and then another county prefers another thing. Even judges within the same county like different things, and that's just the reality of it. And if it's their courtroom, and it's they're making the decisions on how they want this defendant to be monitored. We want to have as many solutions as possible to provide them.
Right. I had a judge, and I'm not going to name, but in a different, because I like the judge, but in a different county, and it was a serious case, and she didn't really want to grant bail, but she said she would if we agree to do an ankle monitor. So, I mean, yeah, I got no choice. So I'm glad it's there as an option, instead of my client sitting in jail. But she said, I'll be right back when we go to my office. She came out with a piece of paper and said, call this guy. And I was like, okay. He's the one who'll do the ankle monitor.
Okay.
So, all right. It was kind of a weird thing, but what was I going to say? She granted bond.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
No, it's exactly where you want it to be, man. Everything's going the way it's supposed to. It's super encouraging for sure. All right, get your best stories together. We'll go back in this last segment, just some of the most colorful people that you've encountered in bonding and in defense, because I can only imagine that list is pretty impressive. You're listening to Back Your Blue. And Daniel Matalon from A Second Chance Bail Bonds and defense attorney Lawrence Zimmerman here with us on Extra 106.3.
Extra 106.3 and A Second Chance Bail Bonds are here to back your blue. Now back to the show on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3.
Back Your Blue is what you're listening to on Extra 106.3. My name is Tug Cowart, along with Daniel Matalon. He is the CEO and CEO. Is that the right CEO of A Second Chance? Is that the
me, yeah.
There you go. That's just such a big title. I'm not used to sitting with CEOs. I don't get to do that very much. DAs either, for that matter. Yeah, I feel like y'all brought the house today. I feel like I'm in good company. But A Second Chance Bail Bonds. Where can folks find y'all online?
ATLbail.com.
Easy enough.
Is our website. Yeah.
There you go, atlbail.com. And talking to DA Flynn Broady, and you guys have the Opioid Project. I want to talk about that and how it's helping families here in Cobb.
I think it's another one of those hidden problems. Opioids have been destroying families in the Cobb County area for a long time. One of the things that we're working on is we have a couple of different organizations. We have an opioid fatality review program where basically someone in my office looks at every opioid overdose that we have in the county. And they talk to the families, they talk to their friends, they look at what caused this person to go down that path. Is there any points where we could have intervened or done anything different? Okay. The Opioid Task Force, it does a little bit different stuff. We're looking at the places where people are getting their opioids. We're looking at places where people are overdosing. Where can we put Narcan? Where can we put the supplies that they need to be able to make sure if somebody does go into this situation that they can recover? One of the things that's important for all Georgians to know is there's an amnesty law here in Georgia. Don't try to clean up the scene. Call 911. Get help to that person. By doing so, we can save lives. But the other thing about that is because you've called and we're trying to save this life, you're not going to be charged with the police come in and find all these drugs in your location. Because what we've seen happen is they're having a party. Someone goes out. They clean everything up. And then by the time they get help there, it's too late for the person. So call 911 immediately. You will be given amnesty. We will not prosecute you because we're trying to save a life. And that's in the law here in Georgia. So people need to know that. If you know you use opioids or you know somebody that does use opioids, you need to have Narcan. You need to have fentanyl test strips, because what we're seeing now is in order to make these drugs more addictive, they're adding fentanyl to everything, whether it be marijuana, pills, everything. And fentanyl tolerance is not something that we develop overnight. So if you take fentanyl for the first time, it might be your last time. So people need to understand that. You need to know what you're dealing with. So if you have fentanyl test strips, you can test, and if it has fentanyl and you don't have a fentanyl tolerance, you don't take it. That's what the Opioid Task Force is, getting the message out to our community to make sure we're doing everything we can to help people understand how bad this is, and just to help them get the help that they need when they need it. We have the Recovery Roundtable Council. It meets at the Davis Foundation, commonly known as the Zone in Cobb County, where they provide a place for people to go to seek active recovery, to understand what it is they're going through, get like-minded people to help them get through this issue. Because I'm tired of every morning coming in and I'm seeing a death investigation on my report, and that death investigation says narcotics were found. And we're looking at 17, 25, even sometimes 60-year-old folks that are using these opioids and dying of overdoses, and lots of times it's because it's tainted with fentanyl. And we're just not getting out the message good enough for people to understand how bad this is.
Yeah.
So that's what these organizations are doing. We're just trying to make sure that we're saving lives.
Yeah, which is the most important. And Daniel, I know you are a big supporter of the DA and the DA's office. And do y'all help them promote that, or do you just push it out on social media, or what's the relationship there? How can you guys lend a hand?
Well, look, I mean, I think it's awareness, right? Making
sure.
people aware.
Shows like this one,
right? Like this, right? I mean, it's like, hey, look, this is what's going on. This is, and we see it, right? I mean, I've had exposure to this myself personally back in the early 2000s. And turn my life around, but I will tell you, it's a different age right now. I mean, this is not anything to play around with. I mean, I've witnessed it in a lot of cases throughout Georgia. The fentanyl is one of the worst monsters I've ever seen.
Nationwide too. It's not just here.
Yeah, and it'll take you out, like D.A. Brody said. He's your first time might be your last time, and that's what you're seeing. I mean, and I have even people, real life stories of people that have been on bond with me, actually in Cobb County. Recently just found out from a dad that the kid had passed away.
Oh, my.
Not long ago in Jacksonville, Florida, fentanyl overdose. And it was off of one prescription pill, right? So, it's like you can't even trust, a prescription at this point just because they're getting access to it on the street, and then next thing you know, you take it, and then it's game over. Yeah. It happens that quick.
Such a sad story. So in the last couple of years, have you seen a change in the number of opioid deaths and crimes related to opioids?
I would say it has gotten worse.
Oh, gotten worse? Oh, my heavens.
And because fentanyl is so inexpensive, and now the dealers are lacing everything with fentanyl because the high is so intense that people keep wanting to come back. And that's where the biggest issue is. And it goes back to our ARC court, where we're attempting to get people into treatment as fast as possible, because the quicker we get into treatment, the better results we get. But I would say 90% of the people who actually are doing this don't come in contact with the criminal justice system until it's too late. And that's where the issue is. That's where we need to drive our awareness of what's happening here on the drug scene here in Cobb County or anywhere, to make sure people understand that, every time you take something, you're putting yourself at risk. And in the sad part, most of these people, they start off with something innocent. They get an injury. They start taking an opioid. They get addicted to it. Then even after the injury is healed and everything, their body chemistry needs that drug to continue to feel the way that they were feeling. So they're not intending to get addicted. It just happens. And people need to be aware, once you start going out on the street to buy stuff, you don't know what you're getting.
No, that's right. Oh my gosh, and I'm sure you've ran across that too with people that you're helping, with their bail bonds or whatever.
It's scary.
And like you said, you have people that pass away unexpectedly, like that you're working with.
Yeah, it's happened. It is literally real life happened. With us at a second chance, and it's sad. And it's kind of it infuriates me, because it's like, this is just wild that we've never seen anything quite like this. The way this is happening. So anything to promote awareness to prevent this type of stuff, we're obviously all on board for that.
No question about it. So website, Cobb DA. Did I get it right?
CobbDA.com.
Look at there. CobbDA.com. And we want to just tell you, thank you, DA Brody, for your service to the community. Thank you for service to our country and the Army. It's you've lived a life of service and a good example for everybody that you represent. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Tug.
Yes, sir, absolutely. And Daniel, just wrapping up here in this show, anything that you want to leave folks with, how to get in touch with you, or any other messages that we want to pass along?
ATLbail.com and 404 bailout is our phone number, and That's about
Do
it.
people still call? I don't think people use phones for calling anymore. Do they do that?
They still do.
Surprisingly,
we have
yes.
we keep every open line of communication possible. So,
That's right. Daniel Matalon of A Second Chance Bail Bonds. Cobb District Attorney Flynn Broady. This is Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3.
Job seekers, stop the endless job hunt. The Blue Collar Recruiter is your key to the career you deserve. Are you a skilled worker seeking the right opportunity? Look no further. We connect you with employers who appreciate your dedication and expertise. Technicians, electricians, plumbers, welders, and more. We've got it all, and opportunities are just waiting for you. So skip the frustration and let us guide you to your next job. Call the Blue Collar Recruiter, 678-916-6145, or visit thebluecollarrecruiter.com.
Finding your direction, a career path, can be difficult. There's so many choices. Check out Life University and explore your options at their Eagle Madness Preview Day on Saturday, March 2nd. It's your opportunity to spend the day learning about their unique undergraduate programs like culinary nutrition, biology, business administration, and more. Come discover exciting majors and talk to current students and faculty at our beautiful Marietta campus. We'd love to see you at our Eagle Madness Preview Day on March 2nd. For more details and to register, visit life.edu/join today.
Is this the year you want to grow your business? Do you want to expand your team? Build a new office? Hey, it's Tug, and I want to tell you about First Liberty Building and Loan. Aren't you exhausted by going to lenders, building a relationship, and a week later, you're dealing with a new person? You won't have to with First Liberty Building and Loan. The Frost family has been helping businesses grow since the 90s, and they can help you too. They know the patterns, they know the ebbs and flows, and they know business. Now the Frost family wants to know you. FirstLibertyGA.com. Buying a building, building a building, buying a franchise, or expanding. Reach out and spend 10 minutes with them. See if you're a fit for them and if they're a fit for you. FirstLibertyGA.com. By the way, if you're a young banker and you want to work with a team that's faith-friendly with a culture of excellence, First Liberty might be a good match. Reach out to First Liberty Building and Loan at FirstLibertyGA.com. That's FirstLibertyGA.com.